3rd District Councilman on, Mr. Brandon Ellington. How you doing, Brandon?
Man, I'm doing good. How you doing today, Carlos?
I'm all right. Hey, Brandon, you might want to pull your camera up or what have you, because we just getting, right there. You good, looking good.
Better.
All right, right. We want to make sure our 3rd District Council person, they doing their thing. Hey, Brandon, I'm letting you run it down, and then if there's some things I might want to ask you, you running late as it is, run down what's going on, what you want to talk to our community about, and what's important.
Well, I want to hit the community with a few things real quick, and I think I may go in reverse order of what's been more publicized, and then hit with something that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. So with Resolution 210059, this is the one in which I've been talking about the homeless enclave, and I actually have a conference call that I'll be on as soon as I get off of here. I'm gonna read the language and then explain it, and I'm just reading the language so everybody has clarity. Requesting the Board of Parks and Recreation Commissions to access parkland for the feasibility and costs associated to maintain and permanent municipal housing uh, for the homeless in the city parkland to provide recommendations. Whereas the freezing temperatures, let me skip past that and get to the meat of it. Section 1, the Board of Parks and Recreation Commissions is hereby requested to access the parkland and feasibility and costs associated, including the cleanup costs of homeless sites to maintain permanent housing on city parkland, and to provide a fiscal breakdown of costs and funding recommendations for housing. The Board of Park Restoration Commission commissioners have 90 days to actually send us this back. So, in a nutshell, we passed this at the beginning of January. In the news, it came out where I removed myself from the homeless task force. These are two different issues. So the homeless task force came about after this legislation was filed. It actually came about in the conference call, and it was passed during the same committee hearing. In the committee hearing, I stated very clearly, and on the conference call, I stated clearly that if I could use the task force in conjunction with the organizing of the enclave, I have no issue with supporting it. Without that, it would be a futile experiment because it has no directive. So that's why I removed myself from there. As far as the enclave, when people hear parklands, that does not mean the middle of Swope Park or something like that. Parkland refers to land that the Parks and Rec actually owns. It's a legal terminology. When people hear the words dwelling, that just means permanent fixtures. So what we're working to assemble is permanent structures here in Kansas City, coupled by a medical provider, which will be able to assess mental and social behavior issues, drug dependency issues. Uh, the housing will be permanent. The service providers will be contract services. So it would be a resource heavy center. So it's not me trying to create a city program. It's actually utilizing government in its proper capacity of regulating and providing infrastructure. So the infrastructure will be provided in permanent capacity. The organizations will be on a contract basis through the city, and that's how you get your service deliverables. And the medical provider would be a center that we actually build down there. So it should be able to reduce transient issues. When it talks about the funding recommendations and the breakdowns of costs, a basic understanding of costs in the simplistic form would be 60 to 90,000 per cleanup that Park and Rec currently does on homeless transient issues inside the park. Now that has no benefits to the community. It's just picking up trash, cleaning up trash, no medical services, no services to the individuals, no possibility of those individuals not returning because there's no way of them working them out. By creating an enclave, we can actually create
Explain
quadrants.
what that enclave per se, because where I'm looking at in layman's terms to our community, you're talking about using some parks and rec land to establish some homeless shelters that uh, will be permanent. And you're saying, I'm thinking you're saying they're spending $90,000 just on picking up trash, that money could be spent better. Or am I
Yeah, no, no,
misconstruing?
you're actually right, but it's more than just a shelter. But you're right. So looking at the warming center that the city has just been engaged in, the proposed budget that we have for that is $427,837, and That was just the original one that we got a week ago. I know the cost shall increase because the number of people have actually increased since the number of people that was down there last time. So when we look at the amount of dollars that we spend uh, per housing or per minimum services for individuals, we need to be looking at the cost benefit factor. Now, when you talked about shelters, the typical understanding of a shelter is a few hours in, more hours out. And there's also several different restrictions depending on how these shelters get their funding. I'll give you an example. An individual with a sexual offender charge, and I'm talking about a low level charge, not somebody that was doing gross stuff, but a low level charge, indecent exposure, something like that, they would be flagged, right? And they would have a hard time getting in most shelters. Most shelters they would be denied access to. So now you have an individual that was seeking shelter that's going to have to end up doing something because they can't get shelter. By creating a different paradigm of partnering with service providers and a resource hub, we can guarantee for the most part permanent infrastructure in which we can access and then work in
And
capacity.
let me cut you off. I'm the cutoff king. I
Now you
I
go.
understand that. I was just in the simplistic forms. You're talking about uh, health and other things with that
Yeah,
shelter to maintain. And most of these people that you just described that might be doing that stuff, they got mental issues,
I know.
and they lock them up, and they, like you say, I can't get in nowhere because I was mentally and did something, and now what do I do? Die on the streets? All
Yeah,
right, I wanna go
I'm gonna
to
jump
another
to.
subject,
Now I'm with you.
Brandon, because what really got me back on your case was when you was like, "Hey, who's these contractors at Bartle Hall providing all these services for all of this money?" Now
Yeah.
that that woke me up as a businessman, and that woke me up when it comes to who's serving me,
Well, I got
who is
some.
serving our community, and why isn't all of our council people that are serving our districts talking about that? Because that's where the tire meets the road for me on these economics.
I don't disagree with you. I'm actually pulling up the Office of Citizen Engagement as we speak, right? And this goes to not only the concerns that I was raising that day, but also a new guidance structure in which I'm trying to get the city to adopt wholeheartedly. So in December, I passed Resolution 200878. 200878 established, well, would have established the Office of Citizen Engagement. It had to be broken down to a resolution, which allowed the city manager to construct what it would look like. And now I'm coming back with the ordinance. So the ordinance I just filed yesterday, I'm going to read the ordinance because it goes to, well, it's a long ordinance.
Read some
I'm going
of.
to,
Why don't you break it down on time? Break it down like I did on the housing. What is it about?
no, I got you. I'm gonna break it. I'm gonna paraphrase it. So
Yeah.
basically, what it does is it's gonna, in the original form, it streamlines all DLJ grants. So when we talk about DLJ grants, we're talking about grants for recidivism, criminal activity. We're talking about grants for housing, homeless population, before, after, and during the crime. Then there's also some other governmental dollars that we can tap into. So what this office has ballooned to now is not only encompassing all DLJ grants. Councilman Robinson had an ordinance that dealt with equity officers. We're going to actually put her equity officer in this office too.
Cut off King. Let me say this. Uh, over there at their the
This,
Kansas City School District
yeah,
board, the Casey
this
Patty
actually ain't a good.
Mansour was
This actually
talking
ain't a good.
about that
This actually,
equity, putting an equity
yeah.
officer over there.
Yeah, that's cool, but this actually isn't a good time to cut off. And this is the problem with our community. When
All
we
right.
have intricate details, we don't get into the heart of the details. When we talk about the contract services at the city, the typical contract services allocated via departments. What this office would do is reconstruct all of that, not only DLJ grants, but the way that the rules of engagement is actually processed. And it's extremely important that people understand the totality, even though I'm trying to do it in a paraphrase fashion. So when we talk about, since you cut in with the equity officer, when we talk about an equity officer, in our reality, that would be part of an HR function. Now, if an HR function isn't able to distinguish equitable processes, then that means that HR department needs to be rehabbed and re-looked at. So when I talk about the Office of Citizens Engagement and reestablishing an office that fundamentally redirects citizen engagement services, it's a must that everybody understands this. This is not a resolution that's a pass-through resolution that means nothing. This is a reconstruction of local government. So what I was saying by including her equity officer, we're actually reestablishing and changing HR engagement mechanisms. And that would go to the mechanisms of grants, grant dispersals, and also geographical boundaries. The Office of Citizen Engagement will also be absolving 311 services and um, um, my KC citywide app to improve that. So, in conjunction with all of this, in layman's terms and paraphrasing, in the future, after this office is fully established, there should be dedicated employees to not only work with nonprofit organizations to increase the grant capacity here, meaning working with those organizations to ensure that they're able to qualify for grants. There should be more public engagement workshops, educational workshops through this department, not just flyers, but actual breakdown workshops, administrative workshops through this office. Data KC tools would be improved and added to this office. And if people are interested, if they pull up the Office of Citizens Engagement, it was just filed again yesterday. Section 1 through 11 highlights all of the city services that will be engaged. And again, that goes from the Office of Citizens Engagement hereby established, Section 1. Section 2, the Office of Citizens Engagement shall be responsible for informing and assisting residents about city charter, ordinances, resolutions through a combination of responsive and outreach activities. The Office of Citizens Engagement shall be responsible for tracking grants awarded to the city by the United States of Justice, DOJ grants. That the Office of Citizens Engagement shall be responsible for assisting residents understanding how to track city finances and expenditures. The Office of Citizens Engagement will be responsible for performing outreach activities to inform residents of grants programs that are available to residents of the city and will work with city departments to expand grants and other programs available to residents. The the Office of Citizens Engagement will work with other city departments and community organizations to expand services. And all of these are shells.
So
Notice,
basically, that's an oversight to make sure that the community is involved in these decisions, not from the top down, but input from the community from the bottom up.
yeah.
And I think that every single survey or consultant that they have had in the last 25 years on the Parks and Rec, the city, that have told them that our districts are the ones that are not being served, that are not being heard, and all of that. And it looks like you're putting some things together that will help with that situation. Or am I
not
reading things wrong?
not only help, it will fundamentally change the rules of engagement. There's a difference between opinion and procedural protocol. This would change procedural protocol where opinions no longer
The
matter.
system in general, the system's broke, and this is designed to correct some things. And
Yeah.
that's all I was saying about the Kansas City School District. I think they're following your lead. And
Well, Melissa actually did the equity officer.
yeah, right. Well, hold on that. But what I'm saying is, I think they will wind up following your lead on what you're doing to buttress up against that equity deal. And I think that has been long overdue. And I would congratulate you. And Brandon, I'm just telling you, I don't agree with your butt on a lot of stuff, but
I don't know why.
you're a politician of the old
Proletarian,
school.
man.
You
Proletarian.
when you say you're not a politician, I forgot you. Don't straighten me out again. Tell me what you are. Tell the community.
Proletarian, man. I represent the people.
All
Uh,
right.
try
Uh,
to ensure
and you remind me so much of when I was a young man in the 60s and we were fighting for Black power and what have you, how you were out there in the streets doing the lawns and just from the time you was even down there at the state, doing those turkey things and just being in the community. I used to be like, man, what is this boy trying to do? But you have set an example for a lot of our youth on where you come from. And it's not like you even be trying to, like, I'm not trying to move nowhere. This is where I come from, this is where I'm at, and I'm gonna make my place. It's more like I think you Bernard Powlish on Ghetto or Gold Mine, the choice is yours. And I'm saying, just telling you, you just remind me that spirit and what I see you doing. I was just being honest. I was like, how long can he keep doing this? And that was like 10 years ago. Now I'm serious, because one gets tired of being mowing and doing 10 years, man, because I know building my company, it's no joke when you're dedicated to your community.
I'm actually glad you said that because I want to throw this in there. There is a level of fatigue when it comes to seeing people so easily distracted and non-focused. So this summer we heard a whole bunch of uproar over reforms. And those reforms migrated to something else. But I said all this to say this, that Senator Brian, what is Brian's last name? Oh, I can't think of his last name. He's out of St. Louis, only black senator, black male senator that we have.
He's coming
Uh,
on next week. I know who you talking about.
yeah. Well, where's the support for his bill at? Where's the support for his bill that would actually statewide change chokeholds and all of this good stuff? And don't tell him I couldn't remember his last name. Just tell him I said what's up.
Yeah, right. Well, hold it, shoot. Yeah, all the things you're doing and what have you. That's why I'm always telling people, Miss Nelson, just nutty professor. You know what I'm talking about. That's all that counts.
Yeah, when I actually know him, I just can't think of his last name right now. But I got a lot of stuff on my mind.
Tell me this. What is your relationship with the city manager now? How do you feel he's operating?
Actually, a lot of the stuff that was included into the new Office of Citizens Engagement was recommendations from the city manager. I think he has a hard job of not only learning the culture here in Kansas City, but getting adjusted. And then, and this is just my opinion, the council does a lot of, has a tendency to do a lot of resolutions, which directs his office to do a lot of things. At the Capitol, I was used to actually drafting my own legislation and kind of working it myself. And I think that creates an issue in government within itself when you have a whole bunch of directives without the necessary understanding of how to obtain that. And I think that creates blockages. And I said all that to say this. Looking at how he helped with the Office of Citizen Engagement, I'm encouraged, but I also know it's a lot of stuff that's coming down the pipeline. Uh, yeah, but I don't have no issue with him. I actually kind of like
All
working.
right.
He's cool working.
How about the mayor? Run that down. What's going on with him? What's your relationship with him? He's Slick Willie to me, but
yeah, this is politics. This is politics, and to me, politics is war without bloodshed and worth bloody politics. So it's never personal, anything with me. It's always about the objective and the outcome and who was actually going to benefit from the objective and the outcome. So we have a cool personal relationship. Obviously, we disagree on some political issues, and when we disagree on those political issues,
what you rating him on 1 to 10? I gave him an 8. I think he's doing as I said on these other programs, I think he want to be governor, president, or something, and you know he knows how to do social media and what have you. But I don't see and then I'm not there, so I'm not even gonna say that. I was gonna say I don't see the commitment that you have for the community, that he has from the community, and all of us came from the same type background. These broken homes to a degree. We got to make it this and that, and he's played that card, but uh, I still don't know his true intentions, and that's just me.
No, I'm with you. I can tell you where my true intentions is with the No More Excuses Coalition. We've been organizing since I've been down here. And I actually started No More Excuses before I got on the council. So when I talk about self-determination, community engagement, community ownership over resources, law, institutions, and policies, uh, that's what I fight for. And more often than not, it creates divisions in the political arena just off of policy, not necessarily personality.
Personality.
And I'm comfortable with that. So when you ask me about rating or where somebody stands at, my barometer and my scale is going to be a little different because of where my opinions, viewpoints, and reality is. Even when we talk about people growing up in the same proximity, I grew up in the 50s, the trades, and the 40s. There was a lot of people that grew up in those areas that wasn't part of the dualistic culture in those areas, right? Uh, so I said that to say this: people's understanding and perceptions come from past experiences. My perception and my understanding comes from uh, an environment of not only violence but a culture of knowing we've been denied, with a consciousness of knowing oneself, history, and some other stuff. So again, my parameters are going to be different.
Hey,
Uh,
Brandon, I'm serious. You well spoken. Some people be sniping at you, but
yeah,
uh, you are really well spoken and for our community. And
you know,
I would
you know
like
what
to
I
see any of you young people that might be looking at this. You need to get with the brother and try to get under his wing, because we need warriors out here. We don't need
Carlos.
pretenders.
No, I appreciate it. You know what I be shooting on? Because the truth hurts, man, and they hate to see it. And I and I'm not gonna lie, I want to encourage people to actually uh be authentic, be themselves, and stop allowing our community
Oh God, you said
to
something
be no, man. We allow
authentic.
ourselves to be played with people that we know has never done anything, but we like a good word. So I like to encourage us to actually be more authentic with ourselves and what we know as reality, and then fight for that. Uh, and I think that's our greatest, one of our greatest mishaps, is allowing not only people in office but people in different positions to dictate and tell a story that is unrelevant to our lives. And when I say our lives, I'm talking about your personal situation. I know my personal situation is reflective of a lot of people, and I know that because I articulate and I have people to tell me, right? And I'm pretty sure that most people's uh, situations are similar, and then we get told something different than what our
Most people that
situation.
look like us.
Yeah, and we get
Yeah.
told something different. And if you believe that, man, you deserve what you buy, because one and one is
I
always
remember
two.
when I was up there at the Boys Learning Center, 5501 Cleveland, and you used to come up there to do interview or do something with me, and you had your whole damn family.
Yeah,
I'm saying, and that's how we work. That's how we do things. Uh, and as you say, you might have came from that same background, but not them circumstances. I always tell people I'm just as comfortable with the dope fiends as I am with the president, because that's where I come out of. That's what America has made my community.
look,
And that experience that you've had and I've had, I would say 80% of black people have had.
hey, and I'm gonna end on this because I got to get ready to get off. I'm the same, but not no more. So I'm extremely comfortable in impoverished communities. I'm extremely comfortable in areas in which violence may be a normal, but I'm no longer comfortable or even in a position to be quiet when I know we're following somebody else's design, right? So when we talk about violence and we talk about murder and we talk about drugs and we talk about all of these elements that attack our community, it becomes a point where we have to draw a line and say that if you're using these to attack our community, you can't blame A, B, and C. And I'm saying that in as generic way as I can, because I believe everything that has been utilized negatively in the Black experience here in America to oppress, to detain, to hold, to de-educate can all be utilized by our community to not only advance, but to ensure that we no longer are in a secondary position. But we can only do that when we take full ownership. I can't say that he smacked me because he wanted to smack me. Nah, he smacked me because I allowed him to get his hand over here. You can no longer put your hand over here. And that should be a mentality when it comes to ensuring that our communities are culturalistically viable the way that we want them. Our educational facilities are actually adequate and competent the way we want them. Medical providers, law enforcement, and all of this. And when we talk about law enforcement, to me, that is outside of the understanding of just police officers. Enforcement of law is enforcement of a culturalistic understanding. That could be neighborhood community policing, instructed by community organizations that have a commission, right? But again, self determination and community determination at the end of the day is the most pertinent in utilizing somebody else's tactics as a what's the word I want to use? Somebody else's tactic as a maintaining status can no longer be comfortably maintained, can no longer be comfortably influenced throughout the city. And I'll give you an example. So when we walk neighborhoods, and let's say we walk up on a dope house, I don't come to that dope house and say, hey man, we calling the police so you can go to jail. It's like, hey, bro, we know what's popping here. I'm getting too many calls about this area, and I need you to help me with the block. I need the old folks not to calling me. I need these kids to be able to play. And whatever you got going on, bro, I need you to keep it quiet, man.
On the
Uh,
down.
and and we've seen success in several neighborhoods because again, we also have people with us that provide jobs.
But they respect you, Brandon.
But we
They
bringing stuff.
respect you. And they
Well, I guess.
respect you for how you go about it. Some of these creep politicians and would-be leaders, or I'm calling the man on you. I'm the yeah, man.
Hold on. I gotta give a shout out to SWD too, because I'm not the one getting them jobs. It's SWD, Strategic Workforce Development, and it's about being able to provide what you say. So when we hit cats and we say that we got opportunities or resources in A, B, and C, whether that's uh, jobs, whether that's whatever it is that is needed at that time, and weren't able to display that, then people lose faith and people no longer support. When you're able to present that in a non-fictitious gamesmanship way, you get buy-in, and that's what we're working on. Because when I look at the inner city, I look at housing, I look at a community that is extremely vulnerable and preyed upon and is vulnerable and preyed upon because, in my opinion, we haven't fundamentally drawn the line of what we want, what we desire, what we access, and what is no longer acceptable.
Well, in closing, this is what I want to. I want to ask one other question. I asked you this before. I think. Uh, do you feel that the council people that represent our district we're all of y'all on the same page? And do you feel I've mentioned this before, but I already know that because you mentioned it, but I want to make it clear that we got to get our state, county, and city officials all on the same page so that we can move forward.
I'm gonna put it this way: when you talk about elected officials being all on the same page, I would say it depends on the culture and the community in which those individuals represent. I very clearly identify and articulate the community that I represent. I don't say that I represent everybody in any means, shape, or form, nor do I regulate mine to Pacific geographical imprint. So I said this to say this. Through the No More Excuses Coalition and through Voices of the People, which is two entities that I work with, and We the People, make sure three, and We the People, which is a political entity that I work with, we try to ensure that we can present a positive, authentic representation to the community. And if they choose that representative, they choose that representative. I'm not going to get into the calibers because I don't represent like other people represent. A lot of people don't agree with me. And those that don't agree with me, I don't necessarily care unless they can prove, what I believe in is foul or wrong. I don't necessarily care because I understand that we have two different objectives. So their objective and their understanding is only pertinent to their culturalistic endowment, and mine would be the same. I'm actually trying to get those that have been marginalized, left out, those that actually have that willpower to understand that ownership is critical to organize and mobilize, and that's not everybody's mind state.
All right. Well, this was a very interesting conversation. Uh, really, no more excuses. I'm gonna pay more attention to that,
Me
which
too.
I have not. I'm
Yeah,
just saying because, frankly, I didn't understand. But now I know Cascade needs to be paying much more attention because we definitely on the same page of no more excuses,
yeah,
and anything that we can do to help further uh, our community in those terms, you can feel free to have your aide contact me and say, Mr. Nelson, I need you to do this, or I need you to do this with
I
us.
got
As I like to say, I'm different from your, but I represent the bottom 3/4 of the community. I'm labeling that. And I represent y'all whether y'all want to be represented or not. And I do it in a digital fashion. And uh, it's like when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good
yeah.
night.
No, real talk, real talk.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.